Shui Qing's house. Her father told her that it was so great to have her back. The girl asked what happened. Her father grabbed her by the shoulders, saying joyfully that she was saved. The girl looked at him incomprehensibly. Someone said that she had been taking pills since she was a child so that her development was accelerated. Her body had accumulated a significant dose of medicinal poison, so it would be very difficult for her to reach new heights now. He had only been able to notice this last year when it was already too late. To help her with this condition, he went to a guild of doctors and consulted about this matter. However, none of them knew of a way to solve this problem. Even the head of the guild found himself without help in the face of such a condition and wrote this matter down for the wall of reflection. The man happily said that he was beginning to think that there was simply no cure, but today an incredible doctor appeared, who answered all the questions of the wall of thought, matching them with the perfect treatment methods. It turns out, it is now possible to get the medicinal poison out or her body, but the girl thought about Teacher Liu helping her heal. He had already solved the problem. The girl wanted to explain it to her father, but he didn't listen to her, saying she didn't know. The new head is very talented. He solved 19 thought wall questions in a row. Each of his treatment methods is considered perfect. And to top it off, he solved a question whose answer is unknown even to 4-star doctors. He added that he heard that this new guild leader Liu is a mentor at her academy. Have her help him see him tomorrow so he can prepare for the meeting. He would like to ask him to heal the girl. Mu Shuiqing shockingly asked, "What's Liu's last name? Couldn't his name be Liu Cheng?" The father replied that that was his name. Does she know this mentor? Good. Tomorrow he'll go to him and beg him to tell her how to help her with the medicinal poison. The girl replied with a smile that he didn't need to go to him. He had already taken out the medicinal poison. The man asked in surprise that the one had already cured her. She answered in the affirmative. The father asked why he had helped her. The girl answered that he was her teacher. The father was surprised by this. Day 2. Lu Chang came to his teacher. He replied that it looked like the boy was finished. Zhang Xuan realized that the effect was even better than he had expected. He asked with a smile, "How is the guy feeling?" Lu Chang that he feels that he is still at the early stage of the 6th rank. He does not feel any difference. Zhang turned away from his disciple and said that there was a force meter in the backyard. Let him try to hit. They walked out to the courtyard and approached the pillar. Lu Chang thought about the fact that his pain had decreased. That was for sure. But he was still at the 6th rank and didn't feel a change in strength. If he didn't trust his teacher, he would think that he was suffering for nothing. He accelerated, deciding he would just trust him. Picturing the face of his enemy in front of him, the boy thought that the teacher was the only one who could help him. He struck the pole with his fist. He was surprised to see 44 Din in front of him. Lu Chang asked shakily, "How was this possible?" He thought about the fact that usually the strength of a rank 6 fighter depended on the number of open acupoints. Based on this calculation, 4 Ding corresponded to 40 open acupoints. However, he only opened 1 acupuncture, so why was he able to strike with such overwhelming power? Zhang explained to the boy that this power was born from his body. By reaching a certain level of physical body development, a person could match fighters developing qi. In fact, some poison masters can destroy rank 6 fighters without using spiritual energy. Lu Chang clenched his fist, thinking that when the teacher said he would help him get revenge in 10 days, he had doubted. But now he was sure it was true. The boy fell to his knees thanking his teacher. Zhang told him to remember that Liu Cheng's disciple, his disciple. Even if his enemy is the Qianwu Kingdom Emperor himself, and if it's his fault, he will punch a hole in him for his sake. The boy looked at his teacher hopefully, thinking about the fact that ever since his parents died, he couldn't rely on anyone. He didn't expect to be able to trust Teacher Liu. Zhang Huang asked, "Could someone now tell me about themselves?" Lu Chang let his head go down, saying that the Lu clan was not the most respected clan in the kingdom capital, but still one of the major clans. Lu Chang said that he himself was not particularly talented from birth, but his sister turned out to be the star of the clan and became a disciple of the formation master at only 17 years old. And then they were the talk of the town. However, she was the cause of the disaster. Being talented and beautiful, the girl attracted the attention of one of the heirs. Love turned into hatred. This story ended in tragedy. In just one night, their entire family of 137 people was killed. It so happened that he was on a hunt at that time and escaped a bitter fate. Zhang asked his clan from the capital of the Qianwu Kingdom. Lu Chang replied that given his underdevelopment, he knew he couldn't hide from his pursuers. So he decided to join the academy and hide in the ranks of the students. He thinks it's only because his enemies don't see him as a threat that he's still alive. Zhang thoughtfully replied that the seemingly most dangerous place was the safest place. Perhaps his enemy simply didn't expect that one to open up in the prestigious Qianwu Academy. However, considering that a clan of 137 people had been wiped out, there should have been an incredible uproar in the city. Didn't the Grandmaster Pavilion and the Qianwu Kingdom try to investigate what had happened and give them a fair trial? The boy with tears in his eyes irritably replied that he doesn't understand it either. He only knows that he is the only survivor. He can't talk about it. Otherwise he will be discovered. Zhang thought irritably about the fact that it was not only on the shoulders of the grandmasters to train and instruct people, but also to maintain order. Considering what had happened, the Grandmaster Pavilion should have sent someone to investigate. And even if the Grandmaster Pavilion decided not to interfere, could the royal family of the Tianwu Kingdom stay away? Could they afford to turn a blind eye to the murder of an entire clan right in the capital? Zhang put his hand on his disciple's shoulder, saying that there was no point in remembering all these things right now. Let him just concentrate on his training. He should use the method he taught him yesterday to develop. If he repeated it 5 more times, he could succeed. He would be able to easily kill peak rank 7 masters. Zhang Huang said that he had some things to do, so we have to go. Let the guy not quit training and do what he taught him. Zhang furrowed his eyebrows, thinking that given that the royal family had remained in the capital when an entire clan was slaughtered, the enemy must be unusually powerful or high-ranking. Much more importantly, if what happened was really just hatred due to rejected love, surely only the guy's sister would have died. Why was it necessary to wipe out entire clans? It doesn't seem to be as simple as it seems. He won't force him. He'll wait until he's ready to tell him himself. And the boy looked after the teacher, thinking that it's not that he doesn't want to tell him. He already owes Teacher Lu a lot. He is grateful from the bottom of his heart, but he doesn't want to involve him in these dangerous matters. He is only an ordinary teacher of the academy. Clenching his fist, Lu Cheng understood that after realizing his place, a disaster would surely happen. As he walked away, he thought about his revenge being just his way. Holding out a book to the girl, Zhang Huang said that this saber fencing technique was for her. After looking through the book, Mu Xueqing realized that this technique was much higher level than the falling flower kick her father had taught her. On the fundamental laws of the universe. The depth contained in just this one movement made it feel like it was impossible to reflect. The girl bowed to the teacher, thanking him for the generous reward. She thought of her obligation to handle this girl, and bring the teacher's name to Liu's respect. And yes, around the academy, 2 guys were discussing, is this teacher Liu really as they say he is? Did he help his students achieve a breakthrough with just a few instructions? The other one replied that there must be some reason for these rumors. The brunette asked his friend. The same one also knows Mu Xueqing's character very well himself. In order to teach her obedience, much less inspire her to fight Zhang Huan's disciples, Teacher Lu must be an incredible person. The green-haired guy replied that no matter how it was, he needed to see for himself if he was that good. He wouldn't believe that any teacher in the academy was capable of surpassing Teacher Bai's teaching. Just then, they saw a girl in front of them, and the brunette asked, wasn't that the princess? A girl approached them and said that she was Mo Yu from the Tianwu Kingdom. She was looking for Liu Cheng's teacher. The guy with green hair was about to reply when he was interrupted. Teacher Liu came out of the corner and asked the girl what she was doing here and forgot. But he immediately corrected himself by asking if she needed anything from him. The girl bowed to him, introducing herself, then said that her father was waiting for him outside. He hoped that Teacher Liu would give him some of his time. Zhang Huang asked in surprise, Father, His Majesty's Mo Qianshui, why is he looking for him? He has a place to visit, so he doesn't have much time. The guy was startled upon hearing this, saying that it was the king of the kingdom himself, and Mo Yu awkwardly said that his father came here specially to greet him. It's not good to reject him like that. Zhang replied that he's really busy, but then a man approached them and said that he really had to come here by himself. Mo Yu looked at her father. Mo Tianshui said that he admired Teacher Liu, who consistently solved the 19 questions on the Wall of Reflection, becoming a legend in the kingdom. He happened to be passing by, and, out of admiration for him, wanted to invite him to the royal palace. They definitely need to establish a relationship, and Zhang Huang was thinking unhappily that he still had to go to the Alchemist's Guild, find a chi containing medicine, return to the mansion, and teach Jiao Yao techniques. He has no time at all. He said that he really had a lot of things to do today. He also had to stop by the alchemists, so unfortunately he couldn't accept his invitation. The emperor said as expected from the guild head in business. Since he was busy, he wouldn't insist. He asked his daughter to get that thing. The girl took out the box, opened it, and held it out to the teacher. The king said that it was a sign of his sincerity and asked her to accept it. The boy standing next to them was surprised to think that he had given him a stone. Zhang took a small green pebble in his hand, asking what good it would do. These words were like a knife in the heart for the king, and the boy thought, how could Teacher Liu not know what it was? Mo Yu irritably said, this is a spiritual stone. It is an ore that was mined from areas with dense spiritual energy. It is a commodity that is rarely seen even in the United Kingdoms. Each of them is incomparably valuable and rare, and is an unrivaled treasure for practice development. These are very rare goods. It has no price or market. Even a 2-star grandmaster would have a hard time obtaining it. Zhang had read in the library of the heavenly path that spiritual stones were ores formed from a dense accumulation of spiritual energy. They contain a concentrated volume of spiritual energy within them. The spiritual energy within them can be absorbed by the practitioner to enhance his or her development, thus solving the problem of the limited amount of spiritual energy in the environment. Mo Yu wanted to add something else, but her father stopped her, awkwardly saying that he thought Teacher Lu was just joking. How could such a person not recognize such a value? Zhang Xuan immediately laughed awkwardly that yes, it was a joke. How could he not recognize him? He thanked, thinking about the fact that only he had a problem with qi gathering, so it was completely solved, and even without visiting the alchemists. With this item he would definitely be able to rise to the top. Zhang Han said that he couldn't accept his gift for free. How about him bringing free treatment for the king? The king awkwardly said he really needed help. Zhang told him to perform a martial technique, but the king replied that it was not for him. But if guild leader Lu was free now, he would like to invite him to the royal palace. Zhang replied with a smile that he had some things to do right now. He would come to the palace when he was done with them. The king agreed to this. He then asked, "Is Mr. Liu heading to the Alchemists Guild? Mo Yu should escort him there. As a 2-star pharmacist, she should be well versed in these matters." The king looked at his daughter with a smile, mentally telling her that they are 2 outstanding talents. He thought it would be good for them to learn more from each other. They would have much to discuss. The girl agreed. Zhang Huang said with a smile that there was no need for that. The king asked in surprise, "Isn't Teacher Lu heading to the guild?" Although his daughter is not a pro, she still has 2 stars. With her connections, he will be spared unnecessary hassle. He might even be able to buy herbs at a cheaper price. Zhang awkwardly replied that he didn't need to go there now, but he still had some business to attend to, so he had to say goodbye. After he finished his business, he would definitely pay a visit to the royal palace. Mo Tianshui asked, "There are some other things to do." And Mo Yu, that father, explained everything so clearly. This guy refused. Just a moment ago, he had insisted on sending to the Alchemist Guild, but upon hearing that she would go with him, he immediately refused. Why? Zhang Xuan said goodbye to them as he left, and the daughter told the king that he could not be controlled. The king said that it's only natural for talented people like him to be proud and unruly. The Grandmaster Zhang she was talking about seems to be even more free-spirited than him, right? Mo Yu grudgingly said, "Grandmaster Zhang has real skills. He is not someone that this person can compare to." The king said that not only did guild leader Liu have knowledge of medicine, his ability to teach was also incredible. He held out a leaf to his daughter, telling her to take a look. The girl asked what it was. After studying the sheet, she asked. He had achieved his disciple's breakthrough on the first day. In addition, did he cure Mo Shueking's pill poisoning? The man said that really, if he wasn't so capable, he wouldn't have tried to bring him closer to her. Let her read on. There's something more interesting there. Mo Yu asked, surprised that Grandmaster Zhang's disciple, Chidao Yao, fought with Mo Shueking. The result was a draw. Will they fight again in 2 days? The king said that if Mu Shueking won this fight, it would mean that Teacher Liu's teaching skills had surpassed Grandmaster Zhang's abilities. Even without being a Grandmaster, he is definitely capable of making great contributions to the country. Let the girl think about what would happen if he started giving lessons in the army. What would be the consequences? The man added that Teacher Liu has incredible medical skills and an amazing ability to teach. Although he can't compare to Grandmaster Zhang in making pills and taming beasts, the extent of his talent is absolutely on par with the former. Not only should she get closer to him, but she should certainly try to get closer to Grandmaster Zhang. If he supports her, then no matter how incredible Mo Hongyi is, he won't be able to shake her position. The girl agreed with her father, and said that since they intend to establish a close relationship with these two, should they stop the duel between Mu Shueqing and Zhao Yao? The king grandly said that they should not stop it, but on the contrary promote it. They should let everyone know about this event and create a huge stir. In this way, they can glorify Teacher Liu and win his favor. The king added that he didn't stop the students from fighting. Obviously, he wanted to make a name for himself. In that case, they should give him a helping hand. Mo Yu happily thought that this was correct. It was still unknown who would be stronger. The first fight had ended in a draw. We should definitely watch this battle. Upon entering Zhang Huan's temporary residence, Yang Huan was greeted by his butler. Master ordered Zhao Yao to be summoned here. Zhang held out a book to her, saying that he would teach her this ball technique now. No matter who she fights in 2 days, he hopes she will be victorious. May she not let him and her teacher down. The girl bowed to her mentor grandfather, telling him to be sure that Zhao Yao would not disappoint him. Zhang Huang said then, if there was anything he didn't understand after reading this swordsmanship, he could ask him. Just then, Sun Qian approached them and told the gentleman that the head of the pavilion, Jiang Shu, was requesting an audience. Zhang told someone to let him in. He then turned to the girl, telling her to start practicing. She could clarify any unclear points with him. The girl obeyed. Zhang thought to himself, how could he have forgotten? He was so used to working in his Zhang Huang identity that he had neglected Yang's position. As a one-star Grandmaster, Zhang Huang couldn't enter the two-star library of the Grandmaster Pavilion. However, it should be an easy matter for Yang. There was nothing wrong with asking. Pavilion head Zhang would probably support him. Zhang Shu bowed to the teacher, expressing his respect. Zhang immediately asked if there were any books about Divine Kun in the Grandmaster Pavilion. The man replied that the two-star library has records of him, but they are not very detailed. Zhang told him to take him there, while he thought about the fact that even though the innate poison was still dormant, he couldn't rest easy knowing that he was carrying a time bomb with him at all times. In the Grandmaster's library, Zhang Shu held out a token to the teacher, telling him to use it to see what he needed to see. It wouldn't interfere with his reading. Zhang Huang gave his thanks. After a while, Zhang walked around the library saying that he had gathered everything he could. He closed his eyes and concentrated. A book on Divine Kun formed in front of him. Taking it, he said he would see if there was a solution to his problem. Opening the book, he said that Divine Kun had an innate profundity of soul. He was not only talented, but also very diligent in his development. To raise his strength, he put himself in various risky situations, going into the deep sea, soaking through the desert, penetrating underground caves. Before the age of 30, he had already reached the level of a 9-star Grandmaster. He also read that after reaching this level, his development slowed down. All he was left with was to travel, learn the world, and control the continent. He was also destined to create a Hall of Masters. Although his deeds were still impressive, they were no longer as grand and significant. He read the rest of the information, and then asked if it was possible that becoming a 9-star Grandmaster was the key to curing congenital poison. Zhang thought shockedly that it wasn't as easy as it might seem. Developing a spiritual mind requires a great deal of strength and energy. Where would he get them? Is this really the only way to get rid of the poison? At this thought, he even dropped the book. He started writing in one book, saying that we should give it a try. Reaching the level of 9-star Grandmaster can cure congenital poison. Closing the book, he said, that's right. He realized that the book didn't give any errors, so it must be true. He realized that he has to become a 9-star Grandmaster to cure the congenital poison. In other words, if he doesn't reach the level of 9-star Grandmaster by the age of 30, he will die. Falling to his knees and drenching himself in tears, he cried out, asking, what was all this for? His disciples Zhao Yao and Yuan Dao possess various kinds of amazing body features, awakening which their level of development began to rise like taking off on a rocket. He was cursed with an innate poison that could kill him if he didn't become a 9-star Grandmaster before the age of 30. What kind of bugs are in this world? As he calmed down, he thought about the fact that 9-star Grandmasters were the greatest experts who could make the entire continent tremble, just then in his footing. He didn't know what age he was now, but there was still time until 30. Zhang walked through the Grandmaster Library, thinking that although it was very easy to cultivate the Heaven's Path library, but where would he get so much spiritual energy? More importantly, where would he get so many secret books to form the Heavenly Path technique from? Excluding reaching the 9-star Grandmaster level, there must be other solutions to the innate poison of the mother fetus. But okay, that's not the point right now. It's time for him to go back to cultivation. It's still far from 30, so there's no need to worry about it so much right now. He pulled out a green stone, holding it between his palms. Sitting in the lotus posture, he meditated and absorbed its power. But then the stone cracked. Zhang opened his eyes in surprise. The stone fell into his palm, losing its power. Zhang asked, is that really all it is? Such a useless thing. He lay on his back and sighed heavily, saying that he thought that with this spirit stone, he would have no problem reaching the peak of rank 8. Now he felt that he had set his hopes too high. Where else would he get spirit stones? But then the boy opened his eyes wide again, remembering that didn't His Majesty want him to cure someone else? He didn't think he'd mind if he asked him for a couple of those stones. Qianwu Palace. An elderly man came to the king's side, greeting him. His Majesty bid the envoy Ranmu dispense with courtesies. Ranmu's messenger was from the Kungan Kingdom. Behind him was a young guy who was Prince Fei Xuan. The messenger pointed at the guy, saying that he and the prince had come all this way to propose to Princess Mo Yu. Once the Tianwu Kingdom and their Kungan Kingdom were bound by the heir marriage bond, other countries wouldn't dare to threaten them. Mo Tianshui laughed and told the envoy to calm down. Mo Yu is his favorite daughter. They will discuss her marriage later. Let him not rush things. But the messenger told His Majesty that he says this every time. But this one, he brought the prince here in person to make the decision easier. He had heard that the spirit beasts in his country had gone wild and were frightening the population. And now they were trapping him in the magic field. Was that true? The king looked irritatedly at the messenger, asking why he was asking him this. The envoy laughed, replying that if they, the Kungan kingdom, were aware of this, the other countries should have learned everything long ago. If he, his enlargement, agrees to the marriage, he will offer him the beast spirit herb. This is something that no spirit beast can refuse. The emperor thought about the fact that spirit beast grass was a spiritual grass that grew in places where spiritual energy was densely concentrated. Spirit beasts are very fond of it, and they are eager to get their hands on it. The value of the spirit stone. But he looked at his daughter, thinking of Mo Yu as his heiress, the future ruler. How could he trade her for the beast spirit herb? The girl asked her father that before he answered, could she say a few words? The man replied with a smile for her to speak. The girl confidently said that she was a simple person. She herself did not have any objection to marriage either. She looked at the prince and asked, he knows she's a spirit beast tamer, right? Her spirit pet has a nasty temper. If it sees someone it doesn't accept approaching her, it will immediately get angry. If he, Prince Feng Xuan, can defeat her pet, he will humble himself and she will accept the marriage. The principal asked in surprise if she was serious. The girl snapped her fingers, answering exactly what it was. You have a small amount of time, a golden-winged eagle has landed in your yard. The prince thought with a chuckle that although he was not a spirit beast tamer, he had some idea about them. This kind of spirit beast belonged to the flying beasts, but he was not the weakest among them. But nature itself has limited his talent. The strongest he can count on is a rank 7 peak. With a smile he asked Her Highness that she was his mistress. If he wins, will she agree to marry him? The girl replied with a confident smile on her face that, of course, she was a worthy princess of her country and could vouch for her words. But if he lost, she would leave immediately. The prince smugly rolled up his sleeves, replying that in a way it was right. If he couldn't defeat the pet, what positive qualities did he have left to be a worthy groom for the princess? The king excitedly mentally told his daughter that it was not too late to change her mind. She laughed wickedly, saying that the prince had agreed. The messenger was frightened for the prince and he went to the eagle and told him not to worry. It's just a golden-winged eagle. It's not a problem to handle it. Rolling up his sleeves again, Fei Xuan thought about the fact that the golden-winged eagle only reaches the 7th rank by its adulthood. Let them watch how easily he would deal with it. But it wasn't long before the prince fearfully began to run away from the eagle's attacks, screaming loudly, "What the hell is wrong with him?" And Ranmu shockedly asked, that was this spirit beast half a step away from the 8th rank. But then the prince stopped abruptly. Extending his arm out in front of him, he told the eagle to wait. The prince was breathing heavily, saying that this battle, he admits, but the eagle immediately swung his hand, sending the boy flying. The messenger was frightened. Mo Yu told the prince with a smile that he was defeated. Holding onto her bumped shoulder, the principal said as she cheated. Golden-winged eagles were limited by their bloodline, their maximum strength only reaching the 7th rank. How could this chicken be half a step away from the 8th rank? A servant immediately ran up to His Highness. The princess walked over to her pet, who was smiling at her. She told the prince to just admit defeat. Does His Highness not want to keep the promise he made? And Fei Xuan irritably thought about the fact that he had really promised that if he lost, he would give up on the marriage. Now he didn't even have anything to say to her. Then came a servant who saw the prince and thought, what on earth is going on here? And the messenger told His Highness to take a pill. The servant told His Highness that teacher Liu from Tianwu Academy asked to see him. The king rejoiced and ordered to bring the much-revered Liu sooner rather than later. The king told his daughter that this time she was watching her behavior and not letting her temper get the best of her. We must get along with Mr. Liu. He has high hopes for him as a candidate. The girl hummed unhappily, turning away. The prince, who was supported by an envoy, asked that one was the best candidate. Ranmu said that it was no wonder now why His Majesty had always put off the matter of marriage. He had long ago found the right man for his daughter in his own kingdom. The prince said he was interested to see how awesome the one was since he made His Majesty behave like that. Sluha told the esteemed Liu where to go. Did the prince and the envoy realize that the guy had the initial stage of rank 7? The prince asked incomprehensibly, what did His Majesty see in this person if he had only reached the initial stage of the 7th rank? Ranmu agreed with the prince, adding that in a small place like the Tianwu kingdom, such a person would be considered very strong. But if he were to enter a first-class kingdom, he would be considered a very ordinary warrior. Zhang Xuan walked up to His Majesty, extending his hand for a handshake, greeting him. The guests from the other kingdom wondered what he was doing. The prince asked that if a citizen meets His Majesty, shouldn't he first salute? Even if you forget about saluting the monarch, shouldn't the younger man salute the older man? What kind of strange rules of behavior does he have? Ranmu grudgingly thought to himself that this was somehow wrong. Tianwu capital city, 3 major families, countless princes and ministers. Why hadn't he heard anything about a person with the surname Liu? Oh, and he had never seen him. Even the spirit beasts that lived in the Tianwu realm had clearly explored every corner. Naturally, they know a lot about the distribution of power in the city. but they have never heard of a strong man with the surname Liu. Who is this guy anyway? The king told the esteemed Liu that he really took him by surprise. He thought he'd come yesterday, but he didn't expect to see him today. Zhang apologized, saying that something had happened yesterday. Zhang added with a smile that if he couldn't help him with his illness yesterday, they would definitely deal with it today. Zhang glanced angrily at the guests, thinking that they were asking for a conflict with an unhealthy person. For what purpose? Who were they? The prince seriously stepped forward and grandly introduced himself that he was the second prince of Xia Kunghan Kingdom, Prince Fei Xuan. Came here today to propose marriage to Princess Mo Yu. And since he is also a candidate for her hand in marriage, and has the approval of His Majesty and the princess, would he dare to compete with him? Zhang Huang stared at him incomprehensibly, thinking, what is he a candidate? What is that person even talking about? He's talking about getting married, and he came here to treat a person. And why did he suddenly decide to compare himself to him? But then it dawned on Zhang Huan that maybe Mo Tianshui had invited him to come and see him as well. It all makes sense now. If this guy is saying some crazy things, he is clearly a potential patient of his. Mental illnesses are harder to treat than physical illnesses, but this way it would be easier for him to get him to dialogue and then get something out of him. He hopes he can get at least 2 spiritual stones. Zhang made a serious face and told His Majesty that this patient was in a very deplorable condition. Central nervous system diseases are a big problem that is more troublesome than physical illnesses. Ordinary treatment will not help. It will take a lot of effort. The prince and the messenger were shocked. Fei Xuan irritably shouted that it was rather that one who was mentally ill, not him, and so was his family. Ranmu also shouted that it was rude. The prince of their family is in good health. What the hell is that guy talking about? Zhang asked incomprehensibly. The one in good health? Then is this messenger sick? The man shouted that he himself was sick. Ranmu asked His Majesty Tianshui, what is the hospitality of his kingdom Tianwu? Although he is not a prince, but a dignitary chosen by the Royal Highness to accompany the prince. Does he want to humiliate the envoy? Is this a provocation for their Kungan kingdom? Zhang looked at everyone incomprehensibly, and the king smiled awkwardly, asking Ranmu's envoy not to simmer down. He invited the much-honored Liu to cure his illness. He doesn't know the two of them, so he accidentally offended him. He hopes the latter will forgive him. The king turned to the esteemed Liu, saying that the 2 gentlemen were guests of their kingdom, not his potential patients. Zhang looked at the prince in surprise, thinking that if they were not his patients, then why was their prince talking nonsense? He didn't understand how a person who had a problem with his head could become the heir to the throne in the Kungan kingdom. The prince thought with disgust as to why he was staring like that. He is a worthy prince of his country, higher than tens of thousands of people. An idol worshipped by many people. Why is he looking at him with pity? Tell him to stop looking at him like he's mentally ill. Mo Yu chuckled softly. The girl thought about the fact that now she didn't wonder why this guy made her so angry. His ability to cause others to hate him is very impressive. Just a couple of phrases made the calm Prince Fei Xuan blush with anger. Yes, so much so that right now he wants to kill someone. The prince asked irritably, would the latter compete with him? If he didn't want to, let him say so at once. There was no need to look for any reason. Zhang incomprehensibly thought about the fact that this guy insists on competing, but he doesn't need it. He came here to cure the ruler's illness and earn the spirit stone. He doesn't want to take away his right to a potential marriage. Why would he want to compete with him? He asked the guy why would he want to compete with him. The prince angrily replied that it was very simple. Princess Mo Yu herself had just said that she was willing to accept a marriage proposal from someone who could defeat her spirit pet. If Zhang defeats him, the prince will admit his defeat. Will he dare to accept? The prince slyly thought about the fact that not long ago, he had tried to fight this golden-winged eagle and was injured. If it fought him, he would definitely be in trouble. In any case, Princess Mo Yu sets the rules. If Zhang can't defeat her spirit pet, he would love to see what Mo Tianshui's marriage request has in store for him. Zhang looked at the eagle incomprehensibly, asking what he needed to defeat the pet. The prince said that if he refused, he would understand. But he advised him not to court the princess anymore. She's not interested in a pathetic scholar like him. But the prince was ignored. The king told the much-honored Liu that while they were talking, he would advise him to look at his opponent. Ranmu asked resentfully, how could they ignore His Highness? The prince kept saying something that Zhang didn't listen to him, thinking to himself that isn't he a prince? Then he must have spirit stones. Zhang said with a confident smile that it wouldn't be difficult for him to defeat this beast. But since they had some sort of bet, how about making a bet? The prince thought in surprise that wasn't leaving to try and make Princess Mo Yu his wife if he lost already considered a bet. That explained that for them cultivators, spirit stones were very valuable items. If he could defeat the spirit pet, the prince would give him 1 spirit stone. And if Zhang loses, the spirit stone will go to the prince. Fei Xuan irritatedly thought about the fact that spirit stones were very precious. Even though he is a prince, but he can only dispose of the 1 stone his father gave him to reach the 8th rank. Since he hasn't accumulated enough improvement base, he still isn't ready to use it. Should he accept this wager? Stretching, Zhang asked with a chuckle. Doesn't the prince want to? Let him forget about the bet then. As it happened, he had no interest in dealing with spirit beasts in any way at all. The prince became angry and shouted, asking how dare the man. He agrees. Ranmu looked at his prince worriedly, but he mentally told him that a spirit stone was a very valuable item, even for the Kungan royal family. They are very rare. Ranmu also mentally asked that although the one is a prince and has the right to do so, but isn't the stakes too high? But the prince replied with a chuckle, so the envoy doesn't worry. The one is plea-fuffing. There was no way he would believe that an initial stage of rank 7 could defeat a spirit pet that was half a step away from rank 8. The prince angrily thought about the fact that usually, those who were half a step away from the 8th rank would never lose to a 4th or even 5th peak of the 7th rank, let alone the initial stage. If Liu really agreed to fight a spirit pet, he would be torn to pieces in a matter of seconds. The prince turned to Princess Mo Yu, asking her not to force her pet to give in or show mercy. But the maiden replied to him that no. He had already broken his promise earlier, so let her not be blamed for doing as she sees fit. Standing beside her pet, the princess asked the esteemed Liu, had he thought well? Her golden-winged eagle had reached the half-step stage from rank 8. Mo Yu thought about the fact that if someone who is at the initial stage of the 7th rank fights a golden-winged eagle of this level, she simply won't be able to withstand the pressure. But her father wants her to befriend him. But if she lets him win, her pet will get hurt. The prince asked Zhang that when he had suggested him to fight the golden-winged eagle, even putting the terms of the bet, the latter had willingly agreed. But now he hesitated. Had he changed his mind? The prince pointed his hand at Mo Yu, saying that he had already made his bet, and if he refused their bet now, it would only mean defeat. He was sure that Princess Mo Yu didn't want to see the esteemed Liu defeated before their bet began. Zhang looked at the princess, thanking her for realizing that her pet was half a step away from rank 8. He then looked at the prince, saying that he would fight this golden-winged eagle. But he wanted to ask beforehand, what exactly did he need to do for the prince to realize that Zhang had won? The prince clenched his fist, raising it upward, and said that to win was to take this eagle on his back and bring him to the point of total impotence, so that he was unable to fight. Zhang said with a smile that he understood and headed towards the eagle. He should just beat it up enough that it was no longer able to fight. Fei Xuan grinned at Zhang, thinking about the fact that he was clearly looking for death. He didn't provoke the eagle, but he still almost died in the same place. Why is he provoking it? Did he really want to die? When Zhang came closer, the eagle spread its wings wide, picking up the wind. Mo Yu became wary. The eagle rushed towards Zhang Xuan at high speed. Zhang was also surprised, thinking that did the eagle really want to fight him? The messenger, prince, princess, and king looked shocked at what was happening. Zhang felt awkward as the mighty eagle began to roll around happily on the ground at his feet. The guy thought shockingly about the fact that he recognized him. He had definitely reached the half-step stage of the 8th rank, but he doesn't tell him anything about it. Hugging the eagle by the beak, Zhang told the prince that, as he could see for himself, the bird did not want to fight him. Could it be considered that he had won? Fei Xuan angrily shouted, "Are they in cahoots? It's obvious that he and Princess Mo Yu have known each other for a long time. Of course they do. This golden-winged eagle has known him for a long time. That's why he doesn't dare to fight him. He's a cheat." Mo Yu, who was watching this, thought to herself, does the golden-winged eagle know the much-revered Liu? Impossible. This is definitely the first time she's seen Mr. Liu. There was no way they could be long-time acquaintances. But then it occurred to her that talking to him would drive anyone crazy. He had superior talent, excellent medical skills, could disguise himself well, and was quite close to the golden-winged eagle. Why hadn't she thought of this before? He thought about how she had previously listened too much to the information of the Grandmaster Hall and her father. And when she saw the multi-respected Liu with her own eyes, she didn't suspect anything at all, so she didn't have any doubts. No one else would have a clue, but she seemed to have figured it out. He is exactly the same as the one with perfect medical skills, for he had shown them in the Red Lotus City. Now it's no wonder that the capital city of Tianwu Kingdom has two such superheroes at once. There aren't two of them, it's one person. Zhang told the eagle to step aside and then turned to the prince, saying that he insisted on the bet himself, he did not force him. It is hard for him to part with the spirit stone. Is that why he won't admit defeat? Well, of course, if he was a poor man, he would also look for every way to keep it. The prince was incredibly angry when he heard this. He thought about the fact that he is a worthy prince and the man calls him a beggar to his face. But he can't. Fei Xuan waved his hand, saying that he lost, so he lost. He would not deny it. However, if Liu won once, would he dare to make another bet with him? The bet is another stone. The prince put the box on the table. Zhang Xuan asked with a serious face, what should be done? The prince replied that it was very simple. But he would say in advance that the one could immediately confess that he cheated. Then no one would argue. Would he dare to compete with him honestly? Zhang stroked his beard, saying that it was normal to compete fairly. He is not a cheat, but does the one have something to bet? If he doesn't have another spirit stone, then let him forget it. The prince lowered his head and thought irritably about the fact that he only had one spirit stone in his hand. Zhang said he was lying. He doesn't have it. If he doesn't have the spirit stone, there's no bet. But then the prince shouted that he didn't have a second spirit stone, but he had something that could match it. The prince took out another box, and Ranmu turned to his highness. Ranmu mentally told the guy that this spiritual herb has a great effect on spirit beasts. If he lost it, he wouldn't be able to marry the princess. If it falls into the hands of the ruler of Tianwu, there will be a disaster. But the prince looked irritably at the messenger, mentally replying that if he did not wash away his shame with blood today, how would he look into the eyes of his subjects in the future? The news will spread and reach the kingdom by the time they return. Does he want the prince and king to lose their pride? Feng Xuan turned to Zhang Xuan to ask if he agrees. And Zhang asked what was in his hand. The prince replied that it is a spiritual herb. It is already several hundred years old. Its value is comparable to that of a spiritual stone. He uses it as a bet. The same one is using the spirit stone. Does he agree? But Zhang grudgingly said that although it was very precious, it was useless to him personally. He only wants the spirit stone. If he has it, then he will accept it. And besides, this damn herb will only be useful for spiritual beasts. It may have enough spiritual energy, but he can't absorb it. Even if he wins, he'll have wasted his time. After that, the prince asked His Majesty Tianshui if he could exchange the beast spirit herb for 2 stones from him. The king, with sparkling eyes, replied that the beast spirit herb was a very rare item. Of course it is. Feng Xuan turned to Zhang Huang, asking if he had heard. The beast spirit herb can be cancelled for 2 spirit stones. If he loses, Zhang can take this herb and exchange it for a stone from His Majesty Tianshui. And if the prince wins, he wants him to not only return his stone, but also compensate him with more of his own. That makes 2. Does he agree? Zhang Huang replied contentedly. This thing can be exchanged for 2 spirit stones. He agreed. And he himself thought about the fact that extra recently, he was worried about where to get more, and this kid puts them in his hands himself. What a nice man. And Mo Yu grabbed his head, thinking about the fact that the person in front of him was at the 8th rank stage, and even a 2-star master. And he, the little prince, only at the peak of the 7th rank, challenging a 2-star master. Mo Tianshui mentally asked his daughter that there wouldn't be any problem with Mr. Liu, right? The girl replied not to worry. He will wait and see. Fei Xuan told Zhang Huan that since the latter agreed, they could start. And Zhang helped with his hand, saying that he didn't have much free time to look for places to fight, so the battle will be held here. And the prince, without wasting time, immediately activated his power, saying that when he was on the threshold of death, let him not ask for mercy. Meanwhile, Zhang Huang was thinking about what techniques he could use to teach this asshole a lesson without revealing his strength. The prince lunged at the guy, yelling for him to try it. But the next instant, the boy froze in place, startled. The golden-winged eagle leaped onto his back, pinning him to the ground. Zhang shouted angrily at the Goldilocks. Ask what is he doing? Doesn't he see it or what? He's competing with Prince Fei Xuan. Why is he sticking his beak in other people's business? But the innocent bird looked fearfully at the fellow while he cried out that was it so hard to wait until they were over, and he had earned his spirit stones. If it stopped him from getting them, let him believe it or not, he'd roast and eat him. Bad boy. He should be more careful next time. Let him not behave so recklessly. Let him hear him and understand before he makes the necessary decisions. Meanwhile, the principal was shedding tears, thinking about the fact that he realizes Liu wants to teach this feathered man a lesson. But maybe he'll drive him away from him first. If that chicken keeps pushing him like this, he's afraid he'll stick his flippers together before he finishes talking. And Ranmu rushed to his highness. But then the envoy looked at Zhang Huang, telling him to stop humiliating the young master. The man lunged at the guy, yelling for him to let go of his highness. But then the king shouted to the messenger, asking what he was doing. A man appeared in front of him. Ranmu realized that it was the king's shadow guard. The messenger and the guard who had covered Zhang Huang with himself clashed hands. The man bounced back and the guard disappeared. Ranmu thought about the fact that he was relying on the 8th rank apex, and those protecting the Tianwu palace were not taken into consideration. He thought that even if he were to face any danger, he would have no problem dealing with it with his strength. Ranmu clenched his teeth irritably, thinking that he was afraid that there were so many masters lurking in the seemingly quiet hall. But then the golden-winged eagle thought of something. The animal flapped its wings, but Mo Yu shouted for it too to quickly stop and was walking towards her. Ranmu bowed irritably, saying that he was burning with a desire to save His Highness the Prince. He hoped that His Majesty Tianshui would forgive him. Meanwhile, Mo Yu yelled at her pet, asking how dare he interfere in someone else's duel based on his own whim. This is impolite at the very least. The bird chirped guiltily. The messenger helped His Highness stand up. The prince, clenching his teeth, said that everything was ruined. They had agreed beforehand that it would be a fair duel, but this wild beast attacked him anyway, and Zhang awkwardly said that in fact, he had no way to influence the eagle's behavior. He suggested that they should lock it up somewhere and have a fair fight. Naturally, they would make sure in advance that the eagle would no longer be able to help, but Fei Xuan said that it doesn't matter at all right now whether or not he will cause trouble. Does he see that he is seriously injured? Does he want him to fight him in that condition? Is it a fair duel? Ranmu said that His Highness is seriously injured, so the duel is cancelled. But Zhang asked, they decided to just surrender. Really, it's just a little scratch. Let them wait for a moment. He'll heal him in a flash now. Zhang moved closer, but the envoy shouted, asking what the man was doing. Zhang raised his hands innocently, saying that he was just treating the wound, not to worry. It would soon heal on its own. The prince asked that he would treat the wound. The king told the prince and the envoy not to panic. The much-respected Liu is the new head of the Tianwu Kingdom's Medical Association. His medical skills are outstanding. If he said so, it means his treatment will not be difficult for him. The envoy asked in surprise, what about the head of the Doctors' Association? Before he came here, he had not heard that the association had changed its head at all. The king said that he is a master of medicine who has traveled with 19 difficult tasks. He is able to cure countless serious illnesses, so their injury is nothing. Zhang said that the king is right. The prince has only scratches. The king added that they shouldn't worry. If the much-honored Liu takes over, it won't take long to heal. Soon his injuries will be completely healed. The prince agreed. Zhang set to work, and the envoy said that even though His Highness's injury didn't affect his foundation, it was still serious. He is looking forward to Mr. Liu curing it. But in the next instant, Zhang struck the edge of the prince's palm, causing him to lose consciousness. The messenger immediately shouted, calling him an asshole. He asked what the man was doing. The man then turned to the king, asking if this was what the man called brilliant medical skills. The king felt uncomfortable and the man yelled for him to stop this now, but Mo Yu awkwardly thought that she had only guessed before. But now, seeing that Prince Fei Xuan had fallen into a kind of stupor, she was definitely sure that the much-esteemed Liu was Zhang Huang. She told the special envoy not to panic. She suggested to discuss everything later, but then Zhang pulled out one of his long needles. After a small amount of time, the prince opened his eyes. The next instant he jumped up, asking loudly what the man wanted to do. If he's any good, let him fight fair. Why attack sneakily? But the envoy asked His Highness in surprise what was wrong with his wounds. The prince also took notice of it. The guy examined his hands, thinking about the fact that serious at first glance injury had fully recovered. Good as new. Zhang Huang said with a smile that it was just a scratch. If the injury healed, could they continue their duel? And the prince looked at him in surprise, thinking that although he really disliked this guy, the fact that he was able to cure his injury with such ease, his medical skills are amazing. And if the medical skills are good, then the cultivation is also at a good level. He better not fight him. The principal bowed to the esteemed Liu, saying that he had excellent medical skills. If he offended him by doing so, let him forgive him. He didn't know who he was dealing with, so he refused to duel. But Zhang exclaimed that this was no good. He really needs those 2 spirit stones. He can't just give them to him for nothing, can he? The prince awkwardly replied that he did not know that Mr. Liu was part-time head of the Doctors' Association. If he'd known that, he wouldn't have offered to bet. Frankly, he would have accepted defeat a long time ago. And Zhang asked contentedly, the man was just admitting defeat. How embarrassing this was. The bets have already been made, so he will take the bee spirit grass, so be it. And Fei Xuan nervously thought about the fact that he had just said all of this as a goodwill gesture to maintain his respectability. Why was everything made to look like he was admitting defeat? Couldn't the head of the Physician Association and Master of Medicine at least preserve his honor? Zhang held the box in his hand, with a smile. That spiritual herb he had taken away, so also made His Highness admit defeat. To be honest, he was even a little ashamed of the whole thing, and the prince was confused thinking about the fact that he had gathered all the valuable things he had on him, and he was also trying to show himself so magnanimous. If he was so ashamed, why could he see nothing but a broad smile on his face? He had never seen such a shameless man. Zhang tucked the box into his pocket, telling the guy with a smile that he would not ask for medicine. Like His Majesty Tianshui, he would exempt the prince from paying for medical care, but then Zhang said that while he was treating his injury, He noticed that his body was in a depressed state and his ki was stagnant. Even though his body may look healthy at first glance, but in reality, it was not. If he got it right, lately he's having a hard time getting up in the morning and falling asleep at night. Fei Xuan looked at the guy in surprise and wanted to say something, but Zhang interrupted him, saying that he must be wondering how he knows that, right? He is a doctor. While treating his wounds, he had time to check his whole body. Obviously, he already knows everything about him. Zhang seriously told the guy that he had reached the peak 7th rank at such a young age. But to improve his strength, he used a special method to enhance his ki. It was the one that had hidden dangers, which had caused some bad consequences. He will prescribe it to him now. If the prince takes it faithfully, he will completely eliminate the effects of the method he used to improve his ki within a month. After that time, he would be able to fight on par with someone who was half a step away from the 8th rank. The prince bowed, thanking head Liu. He thought about the fact that to heal from stagnant ki and be able to slay a half-step stage cultivator from rank 8, a spirit stone and beast spirit grass was a small price to pay. Zhang turned to his majesty, asking him to take the prince to a place where he could rest, and let him make sure that he would be treated. The king replied to Honorable Liu that this is a patient of special status, so he might have to bother him someday to come and see him in person. Zhang asked the one who wanted him to personally come to see him. It's no big deal. The king told the envoy and the prince to send to the castle and rest properly. The envoy bowed, thanked, and they left. As they walked down the corridor, the king showed head Liu where to go. Mo Yu, who was following behind them, mentally told Zhang Xuan that he had done such a good job of getting everyone's attention. Zhang coughed awkwardly and also mentally replied to the prince that maybe she had him confused with someone else. His name is Liu Cheng. Which Zhang is she talking about? The girl, with a winning smile, answered him that if he didn't want to, let him not say so. There was an interesting thing she wanted to tell him about, but if he didn't want to, then fine. She wouldn't just tell a stranger about her like that. Zhang nervously thought that maybe it was the golden-winged eagle that had declassified his cover. Apparently, if he continued to display so many inherent traits in the future, he would be even easier to unmask. He mentally told the princess that this was part of the Grandmaster Hall test. He hoped she would have the patience not to spread the information. He was glad they had an agreement. The girl replied not to worry him. If he wants her not to tell anyone about anything, she won't. The girl went forward contentedly, mentally adding that since he had stopped denying it, she would no longer pretend. And tomorrow at noon, he must come to her. She would take him to an entertaining performance. Zhang asked interestedly, "What kind of show?" The princess replied that he would know when he got there. Mo Yu thought contentedly that she really wanted to see the look on his face when she saw his two disciples fighting. Even though he might be looking at her with anger right now, she couldn't wait to see his face in horror. They reached the large doors which opened. They could not see anything behind them because it was as if there was a magic fog. The king said they had come. Zhang was surprised to think that this room didn't look very big. Perhaps it is partitioned off by something to block the view. He wondered what was inside. He wondered if it might be a magical barrier. The king told the esteemed Liu that he had not asked to cure a human, but a spirit beast of their kingdom. Zhang looked at him questioningly, and the man explained that the Tianwu kingdom had no powerful ancestors, so they only relied on spirit beasts to protect their territory. Thanks to them, their kingdom didn't become a tidbit for other kingdoms. The man added that as spirit beasts grew older, their magical power and physical strength began to weaken. Some time ago, a disease spread through their kingdom, and he's afraid that the spirit beasts won't last long at all. That's why he wanted to ask head Liu to help him, to find out if he can be cured or not. And if he finds out that it can't be cured, he would like to find a way to prolong its life at least until Mo Yu doesn't grow up. They came closer, and Zhang said that it was a magical barrier. The king explained that the kingdom's spirit beast was old and very sick. Recently, it has gone mad and injured many people. It seems to the king that there is no choice left, and it is time to call in the masters from the Mages Guild to deal with the problem. His power can't be dealt with by anyone but them. So if they had left him like this, who knows how much noise he would have made. The king told head Liu not to worry. He has invited a master from the Magicians Guild. He will soon consult with them and help them with everything. It's too dangerous to enter this barrier alone. It can get lost very easily. Zhang wondered interestedly since the array had been launched. Could the Celestial Path Library see it? Zhang grinned as he managed to see the flaws. He moved to the Heaven's Path Library and decided to take a look at the book that appeared. From the outside, it was as if Zhang was hovering in the clouds, thinking that he was seeing terrifying waves. He feels that it is a third-rank magic field. Meanwhile, the king and the princess bowed to Master Lin Tao. The king told Zhang that it was Master Lin Tao, the vice head of the Mage Guild and the chief elder of the 3 major families of the capital city of Tianwu Kingdom. A man with a thick brown beard said that this barrier was organized by him personally, and they had no problem keeping the golden-tailed lion in it. Why the hell did they come here in such a hurry? Did something happen? Zhang grudgingly mentally told the princess that this person was His Majesty the King of Qianwu Kingdom. This is not an ordinary person at all. Even the Grandmaster of the Grandmaster Hall thinks several times before saying something like this to him. This attitude of the vice head is already too much, but Mo Yu said that he's from the Lin family, and the Lin family is special. The girl explained that Lin Roshan is the head of the Lin family. He is the head of the Mage Guild. He is also half a step away from reaching the 9th rank. Zhang thought in surprise that the iron-toothed howling beast was also at the same level, and its strength scares Zhang a little bit. Even if one were to take a 3-star master and make him cross arms with someone who is half a step away from the 9th rank, he is afraid that no advantages would come into play. In fact, it would be difficult to deal with such a person. Zhang also mentally told the girl that the head of the Mage Guild hadn't even reached half a step away from the 9th rank yet. So why does he possess such strength? The girl angrily replied that actually, the head of Lin Bruotian had only broken through to such a level this year, thanks to his daughter. Mo Yu revealed that his daughter was very talented. She was sent to study at Xuanyuan Academy at an early age, and there she was lucky enough to meet the Prince of Xuanyuan Kingdom, and she became the crown princess. She was given access to the royal vault, and from there, she took the pills that she gave to her father, thanks to which he successfully broke through and reached such a level. Zhang thought to himself, which meant that there was someone very powerful behind the vice head. No wonder why Mo Tianshui didn't take his rude words seriously. Meanwhile, the king told the man that he had invited the head of the Liu Physicians Association to cure the golden-tailed lion, the country's spiritual beast. So he asks Grandmaster Lin Tao to let him in to see the lion. Perhaps the much-honored Liu will be able to cure it, but the man said irritably that the golden-tailed lion wasn't just sick. He has reached the end of his life, he's too old, and there is no cure for old age. That's why he's just lying in wait for the moment of his death. If they remove the magical field holding him, he'll die. And if the royal capital learns of his death, who can take responsibility? Hearing this, the king was horrified. He looked at Zhang, who said that since it was only the magic barrier, he should find a way to remove it. Then entering would not be a problem. If he is afraid of Zhang entering the barrier, then he shouldn't be. He will examine it, and if he realizes he can't cure it, he can just walk back out. What's the problem? Lin Tao asked Zhang, what was he even like? He had heard that he was just lucky enough to solve some serious problem, no more than that. It seems to him that his strength is only at the beginning stage of the 7th rank. It's a small stage for a doctor, but how did he become the head of the association with such strength? The man contemptuously added that the Doctors' Association was on the same level as their Mage Guild. If he was the head of such a prestigious association, he should be at least at the stage of rank 8 or half a step away from rank 9. As long as he doesn't have the strength, it's better to stop calling himself the head of the association, so as not to mislead people. And Zhang awkwardly thought about the fact that he had just suggested an alternative, and he was already insulting him. Does he really dislike him that much? But the king asked the lord to calm down. Just let them examine the lion. If they realize that it cannot be healed, they will leave immediately. But Lin Tao shouted out that it was a 3-level magic barrier. Even the strongest cultivators could be trapped. Do they think that if they enter it, they can get out just as easily? Nonsense. There are so many subtleties here. If they're careless, they'll endanger themselves. It's no problem for him to enter alone, but he's almost at rank 9. Can a 7th-ranked bearer do it? No. The king looked at Zhang upsetly, saying that he was sorry. But Zhang asked that since he was so dangerous, why not stop this barrier from working first so he could enter it safely? As long as it's not working, it won't pose any danger to him. He can go in safely, and then he'll reactivate it. And the lion won't be able to escape. But Lin Tao shouted again that it was impossible. To stop the barrier, one would need perfect knowledge of it, and that would require years of careful study. But the man shouted that he wasn't done talking yet, and Zhang just took it and walked into the barrier. Mo Yu stared at the entrance of the barrier in shock. Lin Tao shouted that for a person with an initial 7th rank to enter a magical barrier that contained a golden-tailed lion was like jumping off a cliff, and Zhang inwardly thought about the fact that he must be here somewhere. He stepped on a small yellow pentagram. In the next instant, the barrier disappeared. Everyone was immediately alert. Zhang turned to them, saying that the barrier had been removed. They could pass through. Lin Tao shockedly said that the 3rd-level magic barrier was stopped by a single foot strike. But shouldn't the basis of terrain, mountains, rivers, and the location of stars in the sky be taken into account to create a special magnetic field? How did he resolve the barrier with a single kick? The same surprised Mo Yu said that he stopped the 3rd-level magic barrier with just a foot strike. And after all, it was created by the Lin family. Only the family members know how to remove it. In addition to being the head of the Physicians Association, Alchemist, doctor, beast tamer, and poison master. Is he also a master of magical barriers? Those are all the most prestigious professions in the first 9 ranks, with the exception of poison master. Lin Tao irritatedly thought about the fact that he didn't care whether the lion escaped, was cured or not. The reason why he was so insistent on not being touched was because this magic barrier was set up by the head. And he's only a 2-star master, so he wouldn't be able to set up a level 3 barrier, let alone remove one like that. Zhang told them to go in again, walking onward. Walking into the room, the vice head looked around, thinking that the magic barrier had really stopped working. He can't believe that he stopped it with a single leg kick, going after everything. The man kept thinking about how when he first saw him, he immediately thought he was a wimp. He couldn't believe that someone like him could take the place of the head of the Doctors' Association. He didn't expect the man to be so powerful at all. He is afraid that only the famous Zhang Xuan can compare to him. Lin Tao angrily decided that he needed to report him to the head as soon as possible. They came to a big lion that had a scar over one eye. The king said it was great that the lion was sleeping. Pulling back the curtain, the king told the much-honored Liu that this was their golden-tailed lion, a spiritual beast, the peace symbol of their kingdom. After he went crazy, he fell asleep and seemed to get even sicker. Zhang asked if he had any accompanying illnesses. The king said that initially he was very quiet, but about half a month ago, he suddenly went crazy. His eyes were bloodshot and he attacked everyone he saw.